Well, joining us now is TalkTV's royal editor, Sarah Hewson. Sarah, remind us of the context of this case. Prince Harry says, I want this police protection and I'm prepared to pay for it, but the court doesn't agree.
Yes, so when Prince Harry and Meghan left the United Kingdom, their security was reviewed and the automatic right to taxpayer-funded, if I can get my words out, security provided by the Metropolitan Police disappeared. They lost that right. Prince Harry argues that they should maintain that right when they return to the United Kingdom. He had previously offered to pay for it. That was refused.
Why? That's the bit people don't
Well,
understand.
the reason that was refused was because of the precedent that it might set, that these would be kind of guns for hire, and that any wealthy individual coming into the United Kingdom could say, I want to pay for Metropolitan Police security when I come in, and that wouldn't set a healthy precedent and wouldn't look good to the taxpayer here, who is wondering where their Bobby on the beat is. OK, they're separate, but it isn't the right message to be sending out. But he has argued, as you said, that his family aren't safe to return to the United Kingdom without this level of security. The issue is whether it's automatic or whether it will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis. And if that's what is decided, then he'd have to give 12 weeks' notice of any visit back to the UK. When he came back for the coronation, for example, and indeed, we believe when he came back to visit his father, he was indeed given police protection then, and he becomes part of that royal protection umbrella. But it doesn't happen automatically if he and Meghan were just to come back.
What are the consequences if this doesn't go his way? Does that mean fewer trips for the family here?
Yeah, and the timing of this is really interesting because we believe that Harry's planning a visit back to the UK in May, and that he would like to bring his family back with him for
Where are they going to
service
stay?
at St Paul's Cathedral to mark 10 years since the Invictus Games. Well, that's another question, isn't it? Because they don't have a base here in the UK. When he came back to visit his father, he stayed in a hotel on that occasion. There are royal properties that they can ask permission to stay in, but it again isn't automatic. They don't have a home here, having handed over the keys to Frogmore Cottage.
What's your view on it?
I think it's a really difficult one. Yes, he's the son of the king, and therefore he is a target. He also served in Afghanistan. We know that has made him more of a target. We know that Meghan has had threats from the far right. So they are very, very concerned about their security. But it's a very difficult one, isn't it, to sell to the taxpayer, to say, you're going to be paying for this family. They're no longer working royals. They don't represent the royal family on the royal stage, on the public stage, and they made a decision to move out of the country.
And only when they choose to come back, if and when. And I think that's the point. And if we get it away, I mean, there's obviously anger with certain people and other people. It's one of those situations, I think, where people have very strong views about it. I mean, for me, you used a word that was quite interesting. Every A-list celebrity that flies into the United Kingdom could ask for Metropolitan Police armed security guards. I mean, for me, you can say he's the son of the king, but he chose that celebrity lifestyle. The minute he signed...
choose the family he was born into.
No, I mean, he chose Netflix and Spotify and everything, and I was very complimentary when you were aware about the Invictus Games. But we know that with them comes baggage. And I made a point earlier, and I'd love your take on this. Certainly, William, who we'll talk about in a minute, he doesn't trust him. He doesn't trust that anything that is said will not be repeated. And that's a major issue for the royal family. And I think not enough is said about that, because I think the royal family from top to bottom are concerned that if they give or do anything or divulge, it will be in a newspaper or a book.
What's really interesting is since that visit back to his father, Harry's remained really tight-lipped about it. He did that interview with Good Morning America, and he didn't reveal very much at all, except that it was, he was grateful for the time. I think he does want a reconciliation with his family. There is a massive trust issue, you're right, and the royal family very concerned that any private conversations they have might end up in the public domain, whether that's in a documentary or a book or an interview somewhere. But I definitely saw a shift in tone from Harry in that latest interview, not giving very much away at all, and actually making the point that's private.
Should we talk about William? There was a memorial service yesterday for his godfather, and then quite short notice we get notification that he's not going to be coming. That's for personal reasons, which there's been some caveats to that. That's not about his wife's health. It's not about the king's health. What do we know?
Look, everyone's a bit jittery about members of the royal family and their health at the moment. So when you get an announcement, and it came an hour before the memorial service for King Constantine of Greece, that Prince William was pulling out. And it wasn't that he was just attending, he was also meant to be giving a reading there. His name was in the order of service. And so that does lead to concern. Kensington Palace quick to assure that the Princess of Wales, Catherine, is continuing to do well at home. The mood music seemed to be this is nothing to panic about, but they didn't go any further than saying a personal matter. Didn't want to get into any speculation, but of course that invariably leads to a lot more speculation. What's going on?
Of course.
What do we know?
We don't know
what do you think?
anything. We don't know what's going on. I mean, it could be something perfectly mundane, that he was just a little bit unwell.
I said earlier, and this is just my opinion, let's make that point again, I think the King's iller than they're letting on.
Well, I think Buckingham Palace at pains to reassure the public. We had the footage last week of the King opening his cards. We saw him last week meeting Rishi Sunak. He was in Windsor until yesterday. Then he returned to London. It seems that Tuesday is usually his treatment day, and then often returns to Sandringham after that. Back to Windsor, into London for
Do we
meetings.
assume chemotherapy? Is that what we're assuming?
I think that's the general assumption, although we don't know, because we don't know what sort of cancer he has, and we don't know the treatment. But we've certainly had a lot more access than we might have expected from them, and I think that's really important because people are very, very concerned
of course they are.
about how
I read something
he
in a
is.
newspaper on the way in, and it made me like, it said, our cancer-stricken king, and I was like, oh, God. Because I think people are, and I think the problem with... I mean, the good thing about being as honest as he was, I think that's a good thing. But then if he doesn't say any more, you can't win, really.
Well, he's got to take himself out of events like yesterday. So he wasn't.
She led, though, to be fair,
Chapel.
Camilla.
Well, Camilla led, but she was driven to St George's Chapel, and that led to Andrew.
Right. So the one thing I wanted to say, sorry, optics again. What the hell? Can you show that? Have you got the picture of a beaming Duke of York, Prince Andrew, leading the royal family? What the hell? How does that happen?
I can only think that happened by accident.
Because Charles and William weren't there.
Out of the door, and it ended up with Camilla being driven to the doors of St George's Chapel. That the rest of them walked, and Andrew and Fergie were at the front of the pack, and Princess Anne behind him. But it was a slightly bizarre spectacle when we see the disgraced Duke leading the royal family into this. Now, this wasn't a state occasion, wasn't an official occasion, hence he was there.
It's more informal,
Yeah, it was a family occasion, but nonetheless, quite remarkable images.
Sarah, as ever, you're amazing, the best. We're glad you're back from your holiday. Thank you.